and passions with the world. While I pursue a master's in education, I am also focused on building and growing two programs I've started. Teen Tech Girls, empowering girls to imagine and achieve new futures for themselves as innovators and change agents in our technologically advancing world. Project Justice, a way to integrate 21st century interdisciplinary themes of global awareness, economic, civic, health, environmental, and digital literacy, while tapping into a student's innate desire to share their voice with others. So I'm really looking forward to this session and learning from Kim. So just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Thanks so much to our Global Education Conference sponsors and supporters. You can see all of them on the screen. And now we're going to pass it over to you guys. I'll enable your whiteboard privileges so that you can tell everyone in the room where you're from on the map. So I'm going to click the star to the left of the whiteboard and click on Toronto, Ontario, for example. And you can type in the chat box as well if you like. So I see a couple joining from the States. Anyone overseas? So again, you're clicking the star to the left of the whiteboard, the main screen there, and you can click where on the map you are, or you can just type it in the chat box. Okay, so we have a couple people from the States there. Great. Okay, so without further ado, I hand it over to Kim. Enjoy the session, everyone.
Great, thank you so much. Well, I'm really excited to be here. I was a participant last year in the Global Education Conference, and it was just an amazing experience. Met so many great people. In fact, Richard and Peggy, I think I met you guys first through this conference. And it really got me thinking about things that I've been doing or involved with that I also want to share with people and get ideas and connect. So this year I'm now involved with 3 presentations. This one I'm doing on my own, and then also a presentation about empowering girls in technology, and just did one yesterday on Coder Dojo. So if you are also out there for the first time participating and you've got ideas to share, I highly recommend joining this conference as a speaker next year. So this is Project Justice, and let me give you a session overview. So I'm going to just talk a bit about what it is. I'm going to share some of the student voices that I collected when I was doing this project. I've also been collecting tons of resources because doing this project really impacted not only my students but myself, and I really want to find a way to try to continue on with it in other capacities. And so that will lead to next steps. What can we do to continue this work forward? So what is Project Justice? Well, I'm glad that Kate read a little bit of the bio, because it started in 2010. It really was a convergence of my passions of technology, education, and social justice. I was at a middle school that was a Montessori school, and I had this opportunity. They had this thing called Immersion Week, where for a week they took a break from their studies and would immerse themselves on something. And they were looking for a topic, and I was like, well, let's do social justice. I'd love to do that. And so that's where the idea came from. And really, my thoughts were, here's what I think we should do. I think we should get the students thinking about social justice. What is it? How is it different than charity? How does it affect them? And I work a lot with social justice with adults as well, and there is a big often misunderstanding about justice versus charity. So that's something I really wanted to help the kids understand. I wanted them to investigate a social justice issue that they felt passionate about. So again, I was providing a framework for what we were going to investigate that week, but I really wanted it to be something that they owned. And that was actually quite nerve-wracking. I will tell you about that. And then the outcome is that they were going to plan a project to help educate about or advocate for a specific issue that they were passionate about. So that's really all I had as a plan going in. Yesterday, Tony Wagner was talking about how students, there should be time in school for students to own their projects. And that is, I totally agree with that. It's also a very scary prospect. So what I had is I had a few days planned with activities, and I'm going to show you those. We went on field trips. We had speakers come in. But then basically there were 3 whole days where the students were going to have to come up with their projects, and I wasn't providing them, I wasn't saying what it had to be, what the output was going to be, what it was going to look like, really up to them. So I really went into this wondering, I wonder what's going to come out on the other side. So we started the week with just going and watching some videos. There's just an amazing wealth of resources out there. These are 3 that I highlight because they were very impactful for us. This song by Brett Dennen, and of course kids love music, and so if you can bring in that aspect. But the music video that goes with it is really powerful. There's different scenes, and the scene you're seeing here with the woman holding up a piece of laundry with a thread. Well, what that thread shows in the background is the workers that are, not being treated well in another country to create the garments. So it's kind of seeing behind the scenes of what you take for granted. And Peggy's asking, did the students begin the project with the understanding? So that's what. No, they did not, and that is sort of what this setup was for, to start talking about it. So we would watch these videos and we would discuss, so what's going on here. Zach Bonner is an amazing young man. He started the Red Wagon Foundation and has done a lot of work with homeless youth. And then Marguerite, I'm not going to say her name right, I Will Be a Hummingbird is a really powerful video to talk about how even though we are might feel small and insignificant, we have power to make great change. So these were really powerful videos to use. The other thing that we did is went on field trips and had speakers come in to talk with the kids. And I have to tell you, I was also nervous about, am I going to be able to find, will people be willing to come in and talk to middle school students or let us come visit? And the answer is yes. We just were welcomed with open arms. People were very excited, actually, to be able to talk. I think they want to reach the next generation with the things that they're trying to help with. So we visited a day shelter for homeless. We had a speaker from the International Rescue Committee come in, and we also went to a nonprofit called Computers for Kids, which provides computers for kids that don't have them. And the very first trip we took, I don't know if you can notice in the picture here, but that is Tom Shadyac right there. He is a famous director of Ace Ventura and Evan Almighty, Bruce Almighty. But he had this transformation himself, a transformational experience, and he donated the space where the Haven is. That's the homeless shelter, day shelter. And he just happened to be at a film screening for his film in Charlottesville, and he comes bopping out after we get off the bus. And of course the kids have no idea who he is. But I'm just like starstruck, and I'm going around taking pictures. But I thought this is an awesome sign for this project. This is meant to be. And he was just very interested and, really interacted with the kids, and it was great. But yeah, I think it was more exciting for me than than the kids. So let's see. What's the next thing? The other thing I really wanted to do, I let the parents know what we were doing. I didn't get any real pushback, but in some circles, social justice is not thought of well, I guess. And so there was a little undercurrent of, well, what exactly are my kids going to be doing? So one of the things I wanted to be clear of is, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to communicate every day our experiences. I thought it was very important to build this community up. And so blogging was a huge part of the student work. And so after we would have a speaker or go visit, the kids would blog about it. Now this was a couple of years ago. I think if I was doing this now, I would actually put the blogging control in the kids' hands. At that time, it was the first thing I tried it, so I actually had the kids, they wrote stuff out, and then I went through it and, added stuff to that. But it was a very powerful experience for everybody involved to see. It was also great for the people that we visited and came and visited us to see that the kids were getting what they said. So I'm just going to read a couple of these. This is from after visiting the day shelter for the homeless. Here's what one student had to say. We saw these paintings done of home by homeless people in art program, and it was really touching to see this one house with an oak tree and a pond and a grassy yard. It was really special to me because that person who drew it had probably never lived in a house like that, and it was probably their dream house. And I did live in a house like that. It kind of made me feel sad that that person had their dream home be like that, and I lived in a place like that. And the visiting the homeless shelter was actually quite a transformational experience for the kids because they had a lot of preconceived notions. They were worried that they were going to see drunk people, dirty people. There was a lot of fear, and it was a very powerful experience for them to see that they had a lot of stereotypes in their minds. We also had someone from the International Rescue Committee, and one of the students wrote, "A refugee, when they have to flee, has a confusing and scared time. It's like leaving everything you know and are used to for something new and different. If I was in that position, I don't know what I would do or how I would feel. Some people who have families get separated, and that would be hard for anybody." So again, starting to see that empathy and feeling what it must, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And finally, the Computers for Kids field trip was also an eye-opener. Here's what someone wrote. "Computers are a daily occurrence for us, and we have started to take them for granted. We use them for research, write reports, and even make entire presentations. But did you know that even though many people own computers, in some schools, 50% of the students still don't have access to computers to help them with their homework, as well as preparing them for their future jobs?" So you can see, and I could see, there's the kids are starting to really put themselves in their positions. And I'm going to just share the link here if you want to read other blog posts. That's where they are. So the next thing I want to do is actually show you a video collage of the projects the students made. I'm going to try to do follow me on the web page, but I'm also going to put a link here to the YouTube video in case it doesn't work to see it in this space. Oops. All right, so that's where we're going to go. What happened when I tested this is it started automatically for me, and it didn't start automatically for the other person. So when we go to this web page, if the video doesn't start, go ahead and start it. And I think it takes about 3 minutes. So we will, yeah, and Peggy says it should start automatically, so hopefully it will.
How can they know how hard the burden? How can they know how heavy the load? Struggle finds a strong heart, and tears rivers of love, and silence finds a song. Woman, my friend, so heavy laden, storms give way to blue skies, and the hurt to the healing, and the fallen will give way to the free. But when will the free be all we know? When will the free be us, everyone? Well, love will cross the mountains, and hope will the sea, and all the way round is where we find our dreams.
All right, well, I guess some of you didn't get to see it, but hopefully you can get that link and look at it later. So what wound up happening when they were set on their own to start creating a project is I've done this with two groups. The first group I did it with, some of them worked in groups, some of them worked individually, but basically they just went off to far corners of the space we had, and we're off and running. I was called in occasionally for some tech support or whatever, but basically they were good to go and didn't want or need my assistance. The other group was a bit younger, so the first group I worked with was 7th and 8th graders. The second group was rising 6th and 7th years, so just a little bit younger. They all decided as a group to do one thing, so that was the animals you saw, to focus on animals, and they did need more help on the technical end. So they did all the gathering of the data and capturing the video and all that, and then I put the movie together. We also had a little time constraint with that group as well. So again, I'm going to show you another resource I provide for students and teachers, and you can, if you can do this, you can kind of decide how much help you need to add, or if kids can do it on their own. But that first group, we had all sorts of projects. We had videos raising awareness, so we had falling whistles, raising awareness about this campaign in the Congo, Environment, advocating for stopping environmental destruction and starting environmental reconstruction, Empty Plate, raising awareness of hunger in the U.S. So they actually found that the Hunger Action Center was doing this action to get something passed in Congress, and so they were able to plug into that. Chickens for Change, they actually did a school-wide fundraiser for heifer. Recycle for Kids, so they collected old computer parts for the Computers for Kids. Invisible Children, they did artwork, and that was actually pretty controversial. They spent a lot of time creating this amazing piece of art, but it was based on invisible children. One of their images is a gun that's a camera at the end. And so we had, one of the things we did at the end of this project is present this not only to within the class, but then we shared it with the wider community. But that actually image was not used. We thought we were good with it, and then the head of school said no, it's too much for the young kids. And so then the kids had to deal with, well, what is being censored feel like, and was that appropriate? We had somebody doing a voice thread story for Creatures for Compassion, and then somebody did a children's book on the story of homelessness. So just really fantastic. I mean, I just can't express how impressed I was with the projects they came up with. And not only that, they changed me. So I was able to see them going through these changes, but they also affected me. So this one project, Falling Whistles, I'd never heard of it before. One of the students had seen a YouTube video. Falling Whistles, they're from the same people that do Invisible Children, so they're very focused on empowering kids for change. And so they do a lot of stuff with YouTube, and she had seen this, and so they put together this presentation. And I previewed all the presentations before we gave them publicly, and when they did this stat of 45,000 people died each month, I was just like, and you know, the biggest war of our century, I was just like, what? I don't think so. And then I did some research, and you know, it was, and it just so happened that that group, Falling Whistles, was coming to Richmond in a couple weeks after this, and so I went, and I now have a whistle because you know what the kids found out and advocated to me. So it's really those two reasons, because of the changes I saw the kids go, and because of, you know, the changes that I saw myself, that I would just really like to find other ways to continue this project. So one of the ways I've been looking at it is I created this web quest. And I don't know if you're familiar with WebQuest. I've been teaching technology for a long time, and WebQuest used to be very popular. They're a way that lets students kind of take control of the learning, and the WebQuest provides a framework that basically you don't have to have lessons and things like that. And so this just seemed like a perfect outlet for the WebQuest. And so now I'm going to put this in the chat. And I'm going to try to take you on a web tour of this, but if it doesn't work, you can open up another window. Sorry, I'm opening it up. So basically, WebQuest always have these parts. There's an introduction, there's tasks, so exactly what you're going to do. There's the process that you're going to go through, and then there's teacher resources, and then evaluation conclusions. So if I go to introduction, this is just a way to get sort of a hook to get the kids interested on why, what they're going to do. Tasks, this lets them know. So you're going to learn about social justice. You're going to seek out opportunities to interact with people in the local community. You're going to share your thoughts. You're going to collaborate on a project. You're going to provide a plan, and you're going to present your project to the class or possibly your school, and you're going to share your project online. And again, these are all, the other thing I did is I went to the NETS and the 20th Century Skills, and you know, these are all skills that the kids, we really want kids to have. So I also outlined the skills that these covered. And then process is where all the guts of the information is. So I tried to give time frames for how long I thought these things would take. Within each of these, there's resources, you know, tons of videos. Let's see, it's taking a while to load here. Lots of video resources to talk about justice, lots of ideas. I think at the end of this one, no, it must be the other one. Lots of ideas for how, oh yeah, research experts, speakers, guest speakers. So there's lots of links to ideas, and these are all areas that I would like to broaden if you've got other resources and stuff to add. Planning the project, creating the project, and then sharing the project. And then I have to evaluate the students on the work that they were providing. I didn't have to provide a grade or anything, but I did want to provide a rubric for folks that need to have that. And I think it's just good for the kids also to understand when they're doing blog entries, you know, what would be exemplary, when they're doing interviews, when they're doing their research, when they're doing a plan. This just gives a very good outline of what is how things should go. And then I provide teacher resources, so blogging, if you're new to blogging, some resources here for getting started with that. And then this are some of the things I've learned when I did it. My first group of students had worked together, so they didn't need to do team building, but we found with the second group they had not worked together, so team building was important. I think, I was lucky enough to have these uninterrupted weeks, but I think this project could be broken down, and that's what I'd love to find out if it can be, and if somebody tries it out and gives me feedback. I provide a list of national resources, but obviously you also want to look at local one. Time constraints, you might need, still very important to let the kids decide, what justice issue they're passionate about, but then they might need some help on putting their ideas together. And then I think it's very important that this work then gets shared, because the whole point of justice is that you're advocating, you're trying to change systems. It has to be shared out. So thank you. You guys are sharing resources here. See, I think that's all there is on that. So at this point, I really did want to open it up to what kind of things you guys are doing. Are there other things that can be incorporated into this? Are there ways that I could help you bring this to your classroom? Just any ideas that you want to share would be awesome. So Peggy asked if parents are involved in any of the process. So in the first group, they were involved in that they were aware of what the kids were doing. They were reading the blog post, and then they were presented to at the end. Yeah, I guess that pretty much happened with the second group as well. So it was more that they're aware, that they had access to the ongoing conversations the kids were having, and then the kids were able to share their work with parents at the end. Okay, Richard, thanks. So the interviews were done during school hours. Peggy's asking if they were facilitated. And what I did, the Hunger Group especially wanted to do some extra interviews, and so I would help them find resources of local people, but then, had them write out their questions, practice. I mean, it's just a great rehearsal as well for just phone interview skills, speaking to people in a professional manner. Oh, I like that course, Empowering Student Voice in Education. So those of you who are joining now, we're taking questions and ideas of how we can share this kind of Project Justice work and empowering student voices with each other. So if you have any questions or comments, you can raise your hand and get the microphone, or write it in the chat. So Richard writes, how does this impact other teachers in motivating them to use Web 2.0? So when I did it with actually both groups were, other adults were participating, or they were helping me. facilitate, and it did open their eyes both on the ability of students to share their voice with a wider community, as well as even them being affected by seeing the students go through their transformation. So it affected them both ways. Oh, so Peggy's asking about the web quest. So I actually created the web quest after I had done this. It was actually an assignment I had for a class I'm taking, and it was just a way to provide it as a resource for others to use. So I have not actually used the web quest. I'm totally looking for feedback, ideas, if somebody wants to use it, if they want me to change it. I am, obviously this is something I'm passionate about, so I'm happy to help anybody who wants to try to get something started with this. And I'm happy to modify it to a situation or whatever. So the other thing I did is I submitted this as a passion-based learning lesson plan to ISTE last year, and they did include it in the package of passion-based lesson plans that they handed out at their conference last year. So there's a and that's linked in the wiki that I'll share with you in a bit. But that's, they felt it was a lesson plan worth sharing, so I felt pretty good about that as well. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Let me just share out some other resources. So the wiki is where all these resources is. I didn't put the link to the web quest in here because it's this really long Google Sites name. But if you go to the wiki, you can get to the web quest. And I'm just starting this wall wisher. I want, and I'm going to take these comments and add them to it, but I want the wall wisher as a place where people can go and add their ideas for how to incorporate in the classroom. And then obviously my other passion is Teen Tech Girls, and dayoftetechgirl.org is the website where all that resources and collaborations and events and activities around that is happening there. And then I'm at KimXTom on Twitter. So I'm curious, has anybody done anything even a little bit like this in their environments, or found other ways to empower student voices? So Richard said yes with Homeless Women and Me. Yeah, Richard does some amazing things. And also in Africa. So Richard, have you ever connected with classrooms in the United States with the stuff you're doing with Africa? And Megan is currently in a grade 11 program that focuses on global citizenship, and there's definitely a social justice component. Flat classroom, that's right. This conference is part of the class. That's great. Well, I will hang out here for a little bit longer because we still have time, but just want to thank you all so much for coming and joining the session, and please don't hesitate to contact me if you have more questions, or again, if there's any way I can help facilitate starting something like this in your classroom, I would be happy to do that. When is your session, Richard? Cool. So Richard's session is 9 Eastern Time tomorrow, and his was one of the sessions I attended last year that blew my mind, so I would highly recommend